I'm doing well, Steve. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. What you guys see here in the middle of the screen is the Soho movie player. And what Wayne and I were just discussing was the humongous coronal hole that developed over the last couple of days. And Wayne, why don't you just kind of talk about what you've learned about it so far and what you're thinking?
Yeah, so this, Steve, literally formed in the last day. And you can see that it is massive. And folks, everyone needs to remember what a coronal hole really is. It's unfiltered solar power coming right at us. And this is a concern because this one right here, that solar wind is Earth directed. And it is scheduled to hit us. Is everyone ready for this, Steve? The 7th through the 9th. A lot happening on that. So, Steve, we need to be aware of this. I would not be surprised that this does not ensue probably a geomagnetic storm here in the next couple of days.
Well, what's more interesting about this is if you look at any of the reports, like the reports that Ben's doing and Suspicious Observers and some other, reliable sources that we have that really look at the sun itself as a Earth-facing disk. And what they're saying is that the sun's asleep. And they're saying that we're in Mander, what they call it, the Mander minimum or something like that.
I believe that is, yeah.
Yep. And just so you all know, from a kind of a Wormwood Nibiru theoretical standpoint, a lot of us believe that the additional bodies in our solar system are actually drawing energy off the sun. That's one of the theories that we have. So when we see these big coronal tears in the sun, that makes us think that something's yanking energy off the sun, right? Now, that's a weird concept, and I know, I can't believe I say half the things I say anymore. But here, picture, even just looking here, I see an anomaly. As soon as I open this up, all of a sudden, right at the top of the coronal hole, we get a strange square.
Well, this is a bonus because we were not. I didn't even see that.
No, we didn't know that was there. But I'm just saying, this is how weird everything is lately. But as you look at this coronal hole kind of grow and to its current status right now, which I have to go back one here. This is what it's looking like right now. It almost looks like the whole side of the sun is getting ripped off, doesn't it?
I mean, I know it's just a hypothesis, but I listen. If we step outside the traditional box of physics of what we know, I think, Steve, something is infecting our sun, and I think it's not more than just a solar minimum cycle. But yeah, that to me is it's impressive.
It is, and we've been watching these coronal holes open up. So a coronal hole, for anybody that's new in studying the sun, is no new thing. It's still the sun when you look at it with your naked eye. It's still completely bright, completely illuminating the solar system. But what happens is with the coronal hole, that basically is where the atmosphere of the sun, if you can follow me on this, it does have an atmosphere, is ripped away. And you are literally, as Wayne said, you are looking straight into a nuclear reactor with no water.
Boy. Yes, exactly. Very well said, Steve.
And so that's kind of the concern that we have with this kind of stuff. So I would say one of the precautions you got to think about is just staying out of the sun, as much as possible. Go get your 100 UV sunblock if you must be in the sun. That's what we're up to now. I think pretty soon we'll have UV 500 as it seems like it's going now.
And and investing in a good UV detection meter is also. In fact, I went out and bought one, Steve, and been measuring. I thought for what we would do as we're watching anomalies on the magnetic poles and compasses that will start giving a UV reading on that, and let's just see where we are.
So the next image I wanted to pull up was from last week. This is the lady that claimed she wasn't a professional photographer, but she caught this image. This is the sun down here, and this is the blue orb up here. This reminds me of those photographs that you took with your UV-IR filter in Colorado that one day.
Yep. Yep.
Only with this one, we can actually see the clouds around it.
Yeah. Yeah. you know, I know what people say, photoshopped, etc., lens flare. I believe, like our good friend Chris Potter says, you know, come on, folks. The lens flare, lens refraction, apparatus malfunction. He says, come on, you know, it's time that we start waking up and say, listen, there is another alternative possibility. And so all the debunkers out there, listen, deal with it. In fact, I just read this, Steve, last week that one of the very prominent astrophysicists said, hey, listen, there are new rules here. They just discovered, Steve, and I'll get back to your picture here, but the point is they just discovered a solar galaxy that's, we are like in the center of this thing. It's bigger than we are. They call it the fourth largest gigantuan galaxy that's out there. So, folks, the laws of physics are being rewritten. And, Steve, I think we have to say that this is showing what it's showing.
Yeah, this whole galaxy, this hidden galaxy story over the weekend, and there's plenty of stories out on YouTube. I'm not going to cover it, but just to put it in context of what we're talking about, if I would have told anybody 1 year ago, hey, we're actually smack dab in the center of another galaxy and we can't even see it, how long would it have been before they brought me the straitjacket to me? But now we have physicists saying it.
Yeah.
And you guys, in the thing that with the audience is just, you know, I mean, you have to put two and two together. They're trying to soften the ground for whatever explanations they're going to give for this. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, well, I just read, Steve, on top of that last night as well in one of the, it was a white paper. The fact is that they're now saying, where the Van Allen radiation belt around us, that really what used to be here, oh, I know what it was. Yeah, it was one of these, looking at one of the crop circles, and they were just talking about what this message said back in 2001, that there used to be another planet between Earth, Mars, and Jupiter. We call it the asteroid belt now. So, folks, it's not quite what they taught us in school.
No. And the other thing that we have to be aware of, too, and I think this is something that we talked about a lot, and this has to go back to the chemtrail issue. So we go back and forth on this, Wayne and I. We go back from them being evil people to them trying to do something benevolent, to doing a self-centered thing that happens to be benevolent. But we've done some extensive research, both Wayne and I have done extensive research in the last week on the properties of oxidized aluminum, nanoparticulated aluminum. And Wayne, what did you find in your study? Then I'll share what I found.
Yeah, well, first of all, you know, the U.S. military does have cloaking devices and clothes. And one of the things I found out that what they actually permeate some of this material with, guess what, Steve? Aluminum oxide. So we know that it has highly reflective capabilities, and you found out something on top of that.
Well, in addition, the nanoparticulates, whenever you go with nanoparticulate, especially because it comes in a pure form and all the things that are going on with nanotechnology, it can, who knows what properties they have, first of all. So they might have some kind of a charging mechanism that turns the soldier's clothes invisible due to some kind of a quantum property that is only evident when you get to nanoparticulate level with aluminum. However, aluminum in general is known as a radiation stopper, especially X-rays. It's the lightest metal that I've been able to research that does have that property. So in the class of like lead and gold and others, those kinds of materials. But the advantage of aluminum is A, it's plentiful, and B, it's easily anodized and put into the atmosphere. So I truly believe they're trying to block us from the radiation of the system.
Well, you know, now that's an interesting thought, Steve. To imagine.
That's my theory. I'm not saying how could I know, right? But yeah, in addition to it being a great way to make something invisible, this aluminum, the property of this aluminum, of its X-ray, especially in radiation, resistant properties, and they're dumping so much of it in the atmosphere to where it's like the skies are white. and it's getting more intense. I think it's because as it gets closer, they're having to use more and more material to keep the radiation within a livable level.
Well, let's just build that hypothesis out then. What you're postulizing here going forward, and I think it has merit, should be thought about. Instead of this being the apocalyptic, conspiracy, governments out to kill us, poison us, etc. What if, folks, what if we turn this around, that maybe they are doing the best that our technology has allowed us to help protect us? Because, hey, listen, if the UV radiation, Steve, goes off like John Moore was talking about the insects, we'll start seeing it as it begins to affect the ecosystem. What if, folks, that this is their attempt to try to shield us, as you were saying, Steve? I think it has merit.
I did too. And the other validating point that we have with that is the Edward Snowden testimony. Wouldn't it be great to get him on WSO?
Oh, we'd love to have you. Let's say the invitation is out there, Mr. Snowden. We'd love to talk to you. And Steve, while we're talking about chemtrails, you and I just were talking about this yesterday, and I think it's worth bringing out. So let's talk about CERN.
Okay. Yeah.
If one thing I know that you and I have done, and done extensively here, we have been registering, monitoring, reporting, observing magnetic anomalies, both with our magnetosphere, both with the poles, compasses, etc. We know that the magnetosphere is, if it hasn't collapsed, which I think it has, and sprung back, it's still in a very weakened state. We just talked about this coronal hole coming in and the radiation that it's going to impact the Earth with. Is our magnetosphere strong enough? I don't know. But Steve, let me put this out to our audience. What if CERN was really designed to build and to test an artificial magnetic field that when the time comes and it is needed, that they can artificially induce a magnetic field around the Earth? And so instead of this being a nefarious conspiracy that they're out there going to reduce the population to 500 million, again, someone put up the 1.8 billion, a trillion, excuse me, that it costs for this machine. I'm sure they're going to want their ROI back. And killing all of us ain't going to do that. So, folks, just think about it. Maybe, Steve, it's there to protect the Earth instead of harm it.
Yeah, we got to keep an open mind towards this stuff. I mean, the thing that we want to make sure we do is we don't want to overly be defensive about everything and sound like we're not open-minded to all possibilities. Now, do I believe that CERN has a lot of different, possible things it could be doing? Yeah, sure. Do I listen to like the conspiracy theories around it? Yeah. I mean, and I'm saying are plausible, yes. But what's more plausible to me is them trying to generate a magnetic field.
Hey, it's just a thought, folks. Love to get your feedback on it. We know something's going on. And Steve, I see what you're pointing up there. I mean, so what's causing this?
Well, here we've got more validation. This one on the left, the 312 degrees northwest, what they were trying to show on that one was that's the actual plat map orientation. What do they call those things?
That's exactly what it is.
I'll remember the word here in a second. It is the, what do we call those things? It doesn't matter. Job. Oh, come on now. You got to remember what this is called. There is a word for this. Cadastral map.
All right, that's why we got you, Steve.
Yeah, so that I can do a tongue twister again. But anyway, it shows this is like the official map, okay? And when you line this map up with the property, which is what it was meant to be the cornerstone of reading the map, you can see that it's off by whatever number of degrees that is, right? I mean, come on, man. That's an old record. They took a compass. They do the cadastral map because it has to be based on the compass, and it's off. And then the one on the right is, this is just my, every day I get different places. This is from Muncie, Indiana, and what we're looking at there is the sunset, and you can see it's at 346 degrees.
Whoa.
That's almost due north, man.
Yeah, it is. That's not supposed to be that. No.
So, Wayne, you had some findings along this line too, again, but this time we heard something different. I mean, I heard something different from you where you saw the phenomenon and at the same time you think something was going over your head?
Yeah, so you know what happened to me on Thursday with my system. We won't get into the details of that, but yeah, so while I was taking the recordings and the readings, running the video camera as well, we caught something. The best that I can describe it, and I'll get this out to the audience, and Steve, so you can post it. It looked to us like some sort of a light craft. I mean, I've never seen anything like it before. It was crystalline, and this son of a gun was hauling butt across the sky. I caught it on about 1.5 frames. So that's 1/30th of a second. So I looked at that. That's putting it up there. I don't know. I'm sure someone will probably correct me on that, but I think that's about a Mach 11, Mach 12, and no sound. So, yeah. And I also like to point out, Steve, and I sent you the picture on this as well, and we'll get it up there. We recorded a very odd anomaly here on Saturday in the Denver, Colorado area. It only lasted for a brief, short period of time. It was not long in duration, but about 2:12, 2:15 Saturday afternoon, something came across and it pulled compasses to the northeast. And I did record it, and we'll put that up as well so people can see that.
And you know, and again, these are all observations that you can make on your own, folks. I mean, it doesn't take, you know, I mean, hopefully you can get access to a compass, you know, either on your cell phone or, you know, or an old compass, which I think the old compasses are probably the better thing to use.
I agree. I'd agree.
But, yeah. So, all right. So let's take a look at this one, man. I got to download it, but let me just put it up here like this. I'll just leave it in Facebook for a minute. This one comes from one of our good friends. His name is Ray. Won't use his last name, but basically you can see this. This picture shows, you know, a pretty intense. I think there's a better one here we can probably find. Let me find that picture real quick, Wayne.
Yeah. And I'll just give some background on this. Ray showed this out to us today, and Steve, I did run it through some different filters. I defy anyone to say that this is a lens flare. It looks to me, and I have a very nice ultra high D monitor. Steve, that looks to me behind the clouds, and what really is the light that it's casting on the clouds. Much like we had here last night, again, with the way that these storms come through, you know, you get these brief. Now, I know that they're going to say, well, you know, that doesn't look like a planet. That's just coming, you know, off the sun there. I don't think so, folks. If that's a lens flare for that red one, I don't know how that could be the case. But hey, you know, I'm not an expert either.
Well, and then I was interviewing June Cyphers today, as you know, and we'll have her video up here pretty soon. But she was showing me a picture that corroborated with that a little bit, believe it or not. And we'll actually show that later. But if I can't find it now,
that's an interesting picture.
Yeah, this is the one. But we're seeing this red orb in, you know, again, remember, if I'm looking at it straight like down, this is and I'm at this angle. When I'm up in the sky, I'm still at kind of the same angle, but remember, it's going to kind of move around just because of the angle of view of what you're seeing. But I don't know if that could be the same thing or not, but still interesting photo. Yeah, this is weird because this is definitely there, and you said this one does not look like a lens flare then, huh?
No, I tell you, I took it down. I went to the pixelization of it. I did find it was pretty interesting, Steve. If you'll look at right at the base, there's a triangle almost obscuring the light. Go up a little bit. There you go, right there. When you blow that out and pixelate it out, there's a triangle. It's clearly something is obfuscating the, there, you see it. Continue to pull out. There it is, see?
Yep, I do. It's a triangle right here.
Right there, yep.
All right, so here's something interesting to mention, too, is remember back in, we were seeing the blue ball surrounded by the red cloud from Davis Station in Australia, and you remember those photos, and we were catching this humongous triangle cloud?
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
Well, that's not visible anymore. That's up in our atmosphere now, and I've been, well, why can't I see it? I believe they put it up there to obfuscate things up there. And that triangle, that's that triangle right there.
Well, and that's just it. It's when you look at that, you're going, okay. I mean, I caught it when you do it when you pixelate it out. So now is that a natural occurrence? And by the way, look at it now. You can see the definition of these.
This is not photoshopped in. This is the same.
No. You tell me that's a lens flare. But of course they will.
It actually has 3 dimensions to it.
It does. So it's like the photo that you showed from, was that Niemeyer that you came out from in Antarctica?
Yeah. And I was having a hard time with that because it seemed to do the same thing. It would like cut off one part of it. And yeah, you're right, Wayne.
Yeah. So that's what connected me immediately because, that picture you got from Antarctica is disturbing, Steve. I just want to tell you, it's disturbing.
It really was. And what disturbed me about it is it looked organized.
Yes. And the thing that got me is that when it went through the 24-hour period, it comes back. So, okay, is this a preview of what we're going to see? But Ray, thank you for sending this. I think, again, if you haven't read it, folks, go read The Hopi Prophecy. Might put things in health perspective.
Yeah. So what I want to do now is I've been playing around a lot, and I think it would be just a good time to do this, and I'll also put this on a separate video, but I've been messing around with images from the cameras down, all those cameras in Alaska with the FAA, and I'll put the link below. But these are these different cameras, and I have it in my editing software right now, and what it allows me to do is play with the images, right? So in this case, this is St. Michael, looking northwest, and look at this green thing show up there, Wayne.
Whoa! It's a lens flare.
It couldn't be a lens flare because the sun's not showing.
Yeah. Oh, then it's a refraction of the apparatus reflecting off the back mirror of the. I'm just giving you the.
I know it. Yeah. I know I'm giving away my next video, but if you don't, some people don't like to watch these big long interviews.
Oh, look at that.
These time-lapse contributions from people that are seeing these cameras are the best.
Yeah. Oh, that's fabulous, Steve.
Oh, I'm not
society, people say, well, if I can't see it immediately and if I can't see it when they get disinterested, but time-lapse, look at that.
And then I'm going to show you the one that's just freaking you out a little bit, actually. It's this one. So first thing you see is this big cloud in the sky. Keep your eye on that, okay? And you'll say, well, I don't see it. Well, you know what? You'd have to look up. You'd have to get your eyes past the coronal, the coronal area of light to even see this. So you need the camera to see this. You can't see this with your naked eye, okay?
Yeah.
So here's what the FAA camera caught. The sun going right past it.
Time on this one, Steve. What is our time reference on this?
This is Monday, July 4th, and it's sunset.
Okay, so we're looking at about 3 hours, aren't we?
Yeah, this is actually Alaska time, so it's 1700, 1722, etc.
Okay, so let's just stop here a second, Steve. So Mr. MB showed from the observatory in Hawaii, whatever the heck that was. You caught another one, and then this one. So there's something up there. It's being shown from too many different places on the globe in the northern hemisphere.
This right here. If I didn't believe in Nibiru or wormwood or anything, this would have got me. This one would have got me. I would have been like, "Yep, there it is." Because look at how it lights the front of it as the sun goes.
Oh by. Yeah.
See how it's so you can tell that the sun's in front of it. Now look at all this anomaly back in here.
Look at that. Look at that. Oh yeah. Make sure you can. There you go.
And look at this.
Look at that.
Right?
Yeah. Well.
That's not all.
What? Is this Australia?
Yes, this is Bloom Sky, and this is Burnaby, which is British Columbia. I'm sorry, British Columbia.
British Columbia. Okay, so what? Again, up in the northern latitudes.
Yep.
Look at that.
There's the green one again from St. Michael.
Amazing.
And this one, oh, I got to blow this one up. And again, I don't mean just to sit here and go, you know what I mean? I'm just telling you, I don't know what to say about this stuff. Okay, so you can see this is Akakat Northeast. It's one of the FAA cameras, and hopefully it's not too blurry when I do this, but watch. Here, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit so we can look at it. The sun goes, watch, when the sun hits it.
Whoa.
It's partially eclipsing the back of the sun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're getting more and more from Alaska and the whole. Yeah. And I know you got those ones of the weekend as well. Someone had asked me if we had any idea about the rings that showed up there in Alaska this weekend. I don't know. My feeling is that either we're getting the debris field coming in closer. It's causing strange anomalies to be showing up. What's your thoughts on that, Steve? You know which one I'm talking about?
I do. And again, do I think it's likely that one or more of these bodies, we have all kinds of matter flowing around in this thing right now. So it won't surprise me to see rings all over the place and all kinds of asteroid material, things like that.
Yeah.
God, here I want to show you this one, Wayne. This is fun showing you stuff, by the way, that you've never seen before. I like it. So Kayla sends me this picture, right? And she goes, this is a normal, no filter picture, right? Lens flares galore. By the way, almost every one of those is a lens flare, okay? But then she takes and puts on the IR filter. This is an object that you cannot see on the film, on the no filter. So we are picking up the object now in the IR spectrum, which is what we always thought we could do.
And by the way, I challenge anyone to come in and tell me that you think the visible light spectrum is the light spectrum by which we track objects with. Folks, understand that, Steve, this shows you can't see it in the visible light spectrum.
Unless we get that rare, I think we're capturing those rare pictures of planets showing up, or where the sun illuminates it for a moment, or
yeah.
And if it wasn't for this wide spectrum of subscribers that we have, there's no way we'd be capturing this stuff right now.
Oh no, and the fact is that cameras see more than what our eyes are seeing.
You know, and that's the thing. It's like I hear a lot of guys will come out to me and say, I'll believe it when I see it with my own eyes. I really do believe when I listen to John and Moore and Marshall Masters and other people that have been studying this, by the time we're seeing it with our natural eyes, I think it will be too late to do much prepping.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because by then, there's no getting the horse back in the barn. It's gone.
Yeah. And so I just don't like that attitude. Now here, look, you don't believe anything I say today, okay? You don't believe Wayne, you don't believe me, you don't believe anything. Okay, I get it. Fine. Don't you think it's just a good idea to have 3 months food and water just in case there's a hurricane or a power outage? Or don't you just think it's a good idea just to have just in case of you know, let alone a celestial event, just a normal event? I mean, bear with me on this, okay? All we're doing at WSO is we're asking people to store 3 months food and water and have a plan either to stay in place or to bug out. That's all we're asking people to do.
And by the way,
so that we know, we're doing it so that they know.
Well, and you know, and actually, you know, FEMA has come out with that very same recommendation. And so, folks, you know, listen, if the powers to be are saying you need to have at least 3 months of this in your house, food, water, think about the health supplies as well. It's good common sense, and that's what's not so common today is common sense. So that, and agree, Steve, that's all we're saying.
Yeah, and then everybody's afraid of FEMA too, and I'm going to throw in a shot. I know I'm sounding like a government apologist today, and I don't really mean to sound that way because, yes, there's nefarious. Yes, they block everything. Yes, it's been a big lie. Yes, I'm upset. I'm upset beyond belief. However, I really do believe FEMA's preparing to try to do the best they can. I think they're getting ready to set up to help people in this event.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Steve, you and I both know we have friends that are serving this country, and listen, we all hear it, and we see it, and we, you know, whatever your view on that is, but I kind of look at a lot of these people, they're good men and women, and they have families, and in events that I think's coming, you know, before we cut out here today, Steve, I think we ought to talk about what's happening at the equator. I think they know something is coming, and so let's all get together on this. This is what WSO is about, giving information, letting you people know what's going on, and for just your own family, just prepare. You don't need a lot of money. I hear, Steve, a lot of people say, well, I can't afford it. Well, yeah, you can. You know, let me tell you, I'm a big believer in pinto beans. And you can buy a 25-pound bag of pinto beans for about $25. And that 25-pound of pinto beans will feed you and your family for a lot longer than having nothing at all.
Yeah, pinto beans also are very good for you, especially when eaten with rice. It's a good mix for the human body for protein and carbs. So beans and rice at a minimum, you can store them in a plastic container or find a way to store them safely, dry, and really, I mean, you know, beans and rice, hopefully you can afford it. I saw 50-pound bags of pinto beans at Sam's Club this weekend for like $12.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. They've been out here. We've been waiting because I know they're seasonal, and we've been waiting for them to come in. But thank you. I'm heading to Sam's.
Yeah. But again, that's season. Like California eats a lot more, or Colorado eats a lot more of those kind of products than Wisconsin. We're too meat and potatoes like here, you know.
Hey, I live next to Boulder. What can I say?
Yeah, I know. So let's talk about the equator for a second. Well, I'm going to leave up this picture that June, I'm spoiling June's video. But June Cypher's video will be up today too. But this is that picture that she got from France. And I wanted to show this one to you because there is another one I need to show you. So you see this big orb with the circles in it?
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to find it's a picture from May. And let's see if you remember us talking about this one. Do you remember this one, Wayne?
I do.
Do you see any similarities between these two shapes?
Yes, sir. I do.
So Look at this. This matches with this. This matches with this. And this matches with this. And I can't see around it to see this other one.
Wow.
Not compelling at all, right?
No, nothing to see here. Move along.
And then here we go. Like the attack on everything that you would use to look at it is another thing to mention. It's like they'll say, oh, we can't look at anything on the sky cams. They're unreliable. Why?
Well, they say that they're conclaved, and thus that, they're going to give a distortion of what's on there. Okay, listen, that we get that, but still, if I put a bird on there, you're going to tell me that if the bird's distorted, it's not there?
And that's my point. And again, it's just one of those things where you look at this kind of thing and you just go, at what point do you say, do you just throw your hands down and say, yeah, it's real,
Well, you know what they're going to say, and I know what the debunkers will say is that that's a dirty lens, and what you're getting is either a residue off of an evaporated raindrop, or it's just basically a dirty covering. But
exactly, yeah. So it's exactly the same pattern as what we see in France on July 2nd.
That's what we saw in Chile back in. What was that? Back in May?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again.
So, you know where I'm coming from on this, Wayne. This is one of the moons of the system, I believe.
I know. It has about as much sense as someone, that there's a little guy going around to each one of these all sky cams and saying, oh, let me put a little bit of water on that. That's compelling, and it's disturbing. That's all I can say. It's disturbing.
It is. And we're going to do the best we can. Everybody needs to do the best they can. Don't beat yourself up if you're not perfect, by the way. Nobody's going to do this perfect. And what the main thing is, we got to do we got to band together in local groups. I really do believe that. So Mark Master says that post-event, survival communities need to be 100 or more people.
Yeah. By the way, there is a great book. My wife asked that we put this out. It's called One Second After. And it is a book predicated, Steve, on what happens when an EMP, it actually hits the United States from a container that was sitting in the Gulf of Mexico. And when that EMP went, as you know, everything stopped. And this is a story about how unprepared people were. And it centers in a little town in Asheville, North Carolina. So something people should read, and you will get an understanding. By the way, Steve, we talked about the equator. And I think people need to understand a little bit about what's happening. When we talk about a potential reversal, pole reversal, there are signs that we can begin to see. And I think last week, I know it's controversial. I know the Washington Post came out with a story trying to debunk it. We've debunked their story. That is, and by the way, is that current, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just putting up the wind flow map just as a conversation piece while we're talking.
So can you go up to the jet stream level on this one, and we'll see what's going on here, folks. There's something really happening here, and we need to be aware of it. I'm seeing all sorts of, particularly right here in this eastern Pacific area, right where we see that new tropical storm, I don't know, maybe a hurricane by now. So I heard, and I'm still checking this out, Steve, maybe someone can look into this as well. I'm hearing that they're actually measuring an increase at the equator of the diameter of the Earth. Now, if we have a pole shift, as I understand it, the winds will stop, except the jet stream winds will continue, and when they hit the ground air, this is where we get the 200-300 mile an hour winds. So something's going on here, folks, and I don't know which one you have here, but you see the video. Check it out, and just.
Oh no! This is all. These are the upper level jet stream winds, and you can see that we've got the normal circle in the middle, and this is where they claimed in this area where there was a breach last week.
Yeah.
And you go over here, and you can see this is that breach area that they were talking about right here.
That's it. So if it happens again.
No, it's happening. Look.
There it is. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, this is not supposed to happen here.
No.
This almost looks like Jupiter, man, like the eye of Jupiter.
We have a new vortices there. Look at that. That is a bad puppy right there.
So you see how these winds are going this way? Normally the winds from the equator go the other way, like if there are in the Pacific here, like this. So look at the Pacific for a minute. That's a normal flow.
Yep.
So that looks relatively normal, right?
Looks
these winds
like it's
going this way, these winds going this way. Then you come over here, and this is what they were talking about, you guys. And this is real time right now. This is what's happening right now. This little part in here is not normal.
Look at that. So you can actually see how it's mixing all the way down to the Antarctic. Now, the guy in the Washington Post, let me tell you, he's a moron. He is a anything to do with what we come here in a science of space and what have you. This guy apparently just doesn't believe any of it. So that's fine. He's a rather rude little man to begin with. So, but Steve, this is concerning.
Well, and then the other thing that you look at here is you've got a nice northern hemisphere, right?
Yep.
This is looking at the planet from above, and then you come down here and then look at it from below, right?
Look at that.
And what I'm trying to show here is that so let's say that this is the normal flow for this time of year, which it is actually.
It is, yeah.
But it's much, I don't know if that's faster or not, but doesn't it almost seems like we have another magnetic point of connection over here. And that's what we've been trying to tell everybody, is that the Earth is tilting. So here's the Earth. This is where we're supposed to be tilting right now. Something like, well, I can't make this tilt. But what's happened is, oh yeah, I can. So as the Earth has been moving around to this other magnetic point, our theory is that it's pulling the Earth from this up to here, like this. So it's turning us on our side. And right now we believe that the Earth is is more on its side, which is then makes this the new South Pole. Does that make sense?
That's where it's heading.
So basically, upper wind conditions would suggest that the pole is trying to adjust. And again, everything looks to balance out, and we have this perfect equatorial balance. And I believe, this is just my belief, this is the Earth trying to adjust to this, you know.
The Earth is a living organism. And, you know, I think that I've heard this said by many others that, you know, our Earth is sick. It's like our sun. They're anemic.
But this is the part that's got us all kind of shaking a little bit, guys, just so you know. This part right in here is not cool.
And Steve, this kind of goes with your readings as well that you have been taking on documenting this. The tilt.
Yeah, the tilt. And we actually have a spreadsheet that I'm working on. We have a couple months worth of data, and I'm putting it into a chart that I'll have in a video this week, but it is off, man. I mean, you know, it's off.
Well, we just need to be diligent, my friend. And I appreciate, Steve, your diligence and the sacrifice. And again, with all the subscribers, it's just, you know, a lot of good can happen when people come together. And if we would just not be so super critical of each other. And just because something doesn't jive with the way that you were taught or the way that you perceive something doesn't mean that the person who's saying that is bad, evil, or what. They're just expressing an idea. And this is what I like about WSO, Steve. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Wynn. That's exactly right. And just to underscore is we're not prejudiced against anybody, man. We really aren't. We want to help as many people as we can. Believers, unbelievers, we don't care. So, you know, we're fulfilling a mission that we feel that we've been given, and we're going to just do the best we can. But yeah, Wayne, thanks for joining us tonight again for another session of the Wayne and Steve Week in Review. Is there anything you wanted to share at the end here? Just a
Well, I think people just need to be at peace, Steve. You know, you and I talked about this weekend, and you know, brother, I just really do appreciate you. And folks, we really want to double up on the effort that if there's fear, if there's anxiety, I mean, we're dealing with unknowns. We're in uncharted territory. We want to make this a place where you can come and hear different ideas. You can express your own and know that you have people who are sensitive to you, and we really care for y'all. We really do.
We really do.
Yep. Steve, I care for you, and with all the great people of with W.S.O. And thank you, sir, for letting me be part of this.
Oh, right on, man. You're now, yeah, you're right in the middle of it now, brother. There's no escaping.
Yeah, we'll have that conversation off air.